Testing, testing, testing. Testing. Testing, testing, testing. Testing. The Let's wait for 5 minutes, I think. Then we'll start. Octavian, welcome. Thanks for joining. I am just waiting to admit more people into the room. Then I will get started. Hi everyone, we are going to start in let's say 30 seconds. I'm just going to do final preparations and then we kick off. Yeah, hello everybody, good evening, and thank you for joining today's product discovery session. The essence of today is talking about or building on the foundation that we already established during the last session. If you did not join the last session, I don't think, I know that there is the recording of the session on YouTube. So you can search my Twitter handle, the same username, that's what it is on YouTube, and then watch the recording. It was very interesting, and what we talked about was the essence and the benefit of reframing problem statements. The benefit of reframing problem statements led us to where we are today, which is we found the problem. What do we build now? We are trying to move from a reframed problem statement to assumptions that are worth testing, or in other words, to solutions that we could bet on, essentially. That's the entire premise of today's masterclass ish. So, once again, my name is Solomon Rotimi. I am a product designer and AI enthusiast, sometimes a design engineer, and I am facilitating discovery and trying to help a lot of teams make better decisions. There is something I recently realized. We are in the era of artificial intelligence. Everybody have one or two things they do with AI. When it comes to people in products, we can design a bit more faster, we can build more faster, ship more faster. But one of the things we have, I don't want to use failed, one of the things that I think that we don't talk about enough or focus on the most is ensuring that we can use the power of AI to solve the right problems. I have made tons of mistakes this year also, building products that doesn't solve and doesn't solve a problem that I've seen evidence that there is a problem for. We talked about all of this last time, knowing how to solve the right problem. And now we are moving towards knowing the right solution to build upon. That is something I would like us to live with today. That's why leaving this session, we understand that the fact that there is a reframe problem doesn't mean that we can just jump to a solution right away. So, just random thoughts on our head here. Yes, this session is going to be recorded. It's currently being streamed on YouTube live. So when it's done streaming, I'm going to upload it on YouTube for anybody that will be interested. Anyways, moving forward, after your team has reframed the problem, what normally happens next? How many are we on the call? Okay, I think if it's okay for you guys, you can just type on the chat box. Let me see how you guys are approaching this at the moment. Let's say your team has provided a problem statement. Let us assume that problem statement is the right problem statement. What normally happens next? What do you do in your day-to-day work or in any task you find yourself doing? Just little responses will go a long way. Just anything you can think of. There is no right or wrong answers. So if you are just joining, the question here is, After your team has reframed the problem, you are sure that this is the problem you are going to solve. What is the next step you take when it comes to building product or ideas? So, for example, you could maybe brainstorm. Some people could look at the requirements, look at competitors, start thinking about MVPs. Others, they said, look for who is solving the same problem. Yes. So some people look for competitors that are solving similar problems. They try to get the flows that they use. They try to see how they approach the problem solving and then pick solutions from the approaches they have seen. Because in fact, people, since they have done it, it could be a, what's the word? It could be a signal that that is the right direction to take. But I have a deep, I will not call it bias, but I have a different method of thinking about this particular stage when you have seen the problem and what you want to do next. I am going to try and connect it to the last session we had. So in the part one, like I said, we found the right problem, we found the real problem, and today we want to decide what deserves evidence. For example, you see a problem to solve, you start thinking about solutions, but there is a case that the solution you are thinking about may require further evidence to be sure that you are solving or you are using the right solution for the right problem. Previously, we talked about wrong problem, finding the right problem. Now we are in a right problem, we are trying to find the right solution to meet that right problem. The boundary for today is going to be this essentially. We started from a reframed problem, obviously. Now, we are going to see how we can explore different directions. We are going to see how we can find a sweet spot for the various directions we have found out. Then we are going to delete some of these solutions because not all solutions are worthy to proceed to the next stage, which is for us to expose the assumptions that we have about those solutions. Then we are going to prioritize the assumptions and then end for today with the note that we need to design experiments. This is essentially what we are going to talk about today. I believe it's going to be an interesting session. I was trying to create content earlier today for my TikTok, and something hits my head. Most of the tutorials or tips and tricks I have seen on YouTube, on Udemy, or other platforms that have education for design, they are mostly focused on the visual aspect of it. The times when I've paid for learning about design thinking on platforms like IXDF, that's Interaction Design Foundation, most of the thinking that they share is usually the 5-stage thinking problem. Empathize, I think it's design, ideas, prototype, and test. Those are the steps that they usually tell us about. Or some people use the, I don't know what they call it, I think it's double diamond method, where you diverge and converge all over again. So there are different methods, but it's very difficult to get something robust that can explain to you how to go from seeing a problem and moving towards a solution that you can start designing or building upon. And that is what we are going to shed more light on today. So finding the right problem removes one risk, but it also leads us to the next trap. Finding the right problem does not guarantee that you have the right solution. When we introduce a final problem statement, we start thinking about what solutions to build. And every solution is usually, or is essentially, a bet. We are basically saying, if we do this, we can help these users to achieve a certain outcome. That is usually the bet when it comes to bringing solutions. A lot of people can jump from seeing the right problem to preferring solutions. We start going from I will use an example that we are going to talk about today, which is Pulse Shield. I did a discovery session on that a while ago with some people, simulated, and the problem we're trying to solve was this: analysts on the platform were having trouble finding, we're having trouble manually investigating the security breaches they see on their system. And the requirement was that we should build an AI system that can help to investigate this, that can help to investigate the security issues that have been going on, and to help the analysts to speed up their investigation process. We were able to reframe the problem, but see the issue now. There could be a case that you can just jump to a solution after reframing the problem. But in the course of reframing the problem, we discovered that most of the issues that the problem we're listing out were already within our system. We already had features that could fix those problems. So things started shifting from, is this a problem that is new, or is this a problem that we already have a solution, but our users are not aware that this solution is available? So if you notice now, this is shifting the entire conversation from build this solution to we have this solution. Let us figure out a way to bring this solution to our users. So everything about solution building is basically a bet. And one of the best way to understand or start figuring out the right solutions to think about is by keeping the problem statements, which has been reframed, visible. If the right problem to solve is visible, your mind starts to open up to the fact that certain kind of solutions could be possible for that problem. If you remove the reframed problem out of your sight, you can start rolling back slowly to the wrong problem to think about. I know I've been talking about problem solutions over and over again, but this is just a building block to something very interesting. When the problem is more visible, reframed and correct, you can start thinking about questions like, what outcome are people trying to reach? Where is the real difficulty? What's in the process creates this problem? When you start asking yourself these questions, you are going to have a tunnel vision towards the reframed problem and then start thinking about possible solutions. So I was talking about Pulse Shield earlier, right? And for example, we can see a wrong solution. Maybe what features should AI agents have? And when I was talking about that Pulse Shield briefly, I mentioned that the initial requirement was about building an AI system that can help to speed up the investigation. But now a possible solution direction could now be, how might analysts get the context they need without repeatedly reconstructing it? So this can be a possible solution. But like I said, solutions are a bet, and you need to be sure that the solutions you are bringing are solving the right problem. So even the solution that is a possible solution can end up being the wrong solution, because I have already established that some of the features to get them to do the analysis properly is already available. So it is not really about which features to build. It's about how do they get to the features, or how do they know that these features are available. So this is the kind of shifts that happens when you have the problem statements in your site and you can actually start thinking about the solutions. So to find opportunities to delete, to find opportunities to explore on, we need to start thinking about what are the processes that already exist within the problem frame that can give us more understanding about what exists today. So this is another direction that can help you to think about the right solutions for the problem. So it could just be like you are looking at a chain of flow. This can be by drawing affinity maps. It can be by drawing or writing an information architecture for an end-to-end process, just so that you can see how people are working through your application, especially when it's in context with a particular problem. So I don't mean end-to-end process flow for the entire system. This is going to be an end-to-end process flow for the context around the problem. If what you're trying to build is maybe an onboarding flow, an example, I'm working on another discovery process simulated for onboarding processes. There is the case that a lot of customers are finding it difficult to complete onboarding and get into the app. The management are not happy because competitors have shorter onboarding flow, which takes people to the application much faster, and they want to shorten the onboarding process. After doing investigation and questioning, we discovered the problem is not that users are having issues with onboarding. They are not having issues with the onboarding process. They just have issues with two parts of the onboarding process, which forces them to make critical business decisions. So in that kind of situation now, what we need to do is to map out the onboarding process. What is the onboarding process from the start to the end? Then we'll start figuring out where is difficult, where can we have, where do we have repeated efforts, where do we have people waiting, where do we have knowledge loss, where do we have tool switching. When you can understand the process that is in context with that your particular problem, you can have a more deeper understanding of where things can be changed, where things can be deleted. And from there, you can start thinking about newer solutions to maybe solve the problem. So, moving on, hold on. Yes, moving on. Do not make the first reasonable idea your final direction. What I mean is this: there is this temptation when you have a proper problem to start thinking about solutions. That temptation can lead you to a lot of mistakes. And then there is another temptation that comes, especially the fact that I'm sure many people joining this course, they are designers. Some might be product managers. Some people that will watch the videos might be engineers. There is that temptation that you can start thinking about solutions from a product direction. You can start thinking about design focused solutions or visual based solutions, whereas you can explore other opportunities for thinking about solutions as process changes. Sorry, just 1 minute. I need to confirm that the live is recording. Yes, it is recording. Yes. Okay. So there is the case where you could explore and think about the fact that processes could change, or maybe something technical can change, maybe from the operation side of things. Maybe you can brainstorm solutions that has to do with something to change in terms of code. Maybe there is a failure in the backend. Maybe there is an API that needs to be checked. Maybe there is something, maybe your customer service needs to be more active and reach out to your prospects. Maybe there needs to be better education. Maybe your content team needs to create YouTube videos to have better education. Maybe it has to do with marketing. That's what properly thinking about solution mean. You need to expand the scope of what your solution should be about. There are some problems that are not, how will I put it? There are some problems that the solutions are not product solutions. The solutions could be anything. So I'm just saying, open your mind to as much as possible, so that the solutions that will come in will be broad. This stage is for, what is the word? Is for thinking wide before you start converging your ideas together. That's what this process is for. A promising direction that you get at the end of the day has to work not just for the users. There is this case where we talk about user-centered design. I'm going to showcase more about this this stuff here more. I'll showcase more about this stuff more. I'll zoom it in more. There is this case about with designing user-centered design. It is nice that we can design something that is valuable for users, but you are in a company, meaning your company has goals, the business have goals, and you belong to a team, meaning there are limitations to the technical capabilities of your team. There are limitations that can come in terms of lack of technology. You don't have the ability to do certain things. You don't have technically sound people on your team. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are trying to build something AI on your team, but the solutions you are thinking about require the quality of team that is in OpenAI. Will you agree with me that the chances that your team, maybe a small team, the chances that you guys can pull it off will be much lower than a robust and world-class quality team as OpenAI? Will you agree? Yes or no? Then are you guys with me? I would like to see some reactions. All right, good. So that's the point. You have to think about things in three different dimensions. Does it meet the user's needs? Does it meet the business goals? And are these solutions technically visible? And this is why when we have brainstormed on multiple ideas, we have to find a way to get the sweet spots for these ideas. I want to see if I can bring this thing here. Give me a moment. Nope. I want to try and separate a particular tab. I don't know if it's going to be possible. Uh, Give me a moment, please. I'm trying to bring out the tab for where I will showcase this stuff more clearly. Maybe I'll just drag my fig jam here. Down, 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 down. So let me know if you can see this much clearer. Okay, that's nice, thanks. So I am going to explain using this example here. We have, this is the pulse shield example I was explaining to you guys. So we basically have the problem here. This was the initial problem: build an AI security investigation agent. Now the reframed problem says, or let me just, this one will be easier to understand. The reframed problem, which is defined here as job to be done, how might we help enterprise SOC teams naturally adopt and integrate Pulse Shield existing investigation capabilities into everyday investigation workflow? Now, the statement is saying, how can we help them to adopt and integrate? Because like I said, we saw what the real problem was, right? This was the initial problem, AI security investigation agents. We saw that the real problem was that most of the teams that are using the platform don't have a way to collect enough context to understand what each investigation should be about. We later saw, after doing internal auditing, that we had the features to solve their problem, but they were not aware of it. So now the real problem statement is, how do we help them to adopt and integrate the existing tools that we have into their workflow? How do we do it? So now we have thought about multiple solutions, different solutions. maybe case health score when escalating this investigation. This investigation is missing reasoning, so we can escalate and write a health score. Maybe it can be about creating educational videos that can link our features with the onboarding page. Or it can be that customer success roll out a toolkit, a structural adoption playbook based on Cloud Axis. Now, Axis is the only single company that knew about these tools and were using it actively. So they took advantage of the entire solution that we had on the app. So now these are different solutions that we have brainstormed about. What do we do now? This is a Venn diagram. The Venn diagram is business goals, technical feasibility, user goals. So we started ranking these solutions, or we started placing these solutions in the right places in the Venn diagram. For example, now, a Slack capture, if we detect copy and paste between Slack and Pulse Shield. So we can offer, do you want to save this as an investigation note? Essentially, this means if our customers want to capture investigation notes outside of the platform, we will pop a message that do you want to save this investigation notes from the platform. So that could be a solution. Now, how do we rank this? It will meet the user goal because it generally solves the problem of adoption, because it will let them know that we have investigation notes on the platform. It is technical feasible because the engineering team could build this and ensure that they can capture this. But it might not meet the business goal. Does this increase feature adoption, customer retention, expansion opportunities, product differentiation? It might not meet the business goal. Now we can look at another solution, customer success toolkits. It meets the user goal, it meets the business goal, but it's not technically feasible. Based on how the team is structured, technical feasibility is going to be subjective to every team. So whatever team you find yourself in, you need to evaluate what is technically feasible for your team so that you can know how well to rank all your solutions. So at the end of the day, 4 solutions were within these sweet spots. A customer success story during the onboarding. We can share how one of our customer, Cloud Axis, has used this tool and have gotten success. We can create an adoption journey for 30 days and slowly onboard the customers into the features that we have. We can rebuild our onboarding so that it communicates value, and many other solutions that fit into this sweet spot. But at the end of the day, this is the key. This is the key. What do they call it again? At the end of the day, these 3 solutions summarizes everything that we had. So this is how it ended up. Yeah, so this is just explaining what all those solutions are. So some of them, the reason why they can be ranked into business or user goal, maybe autonomous agent is marketable, which is AI agents. It is marketable, it has high trust, but there is data exposure and it ignores the core problem, which is adoption, knowing that these features exist. So you have to understand what to remove, what to delete. And then most of all these features or most of all these solutions that we have brainstormed that are not going to work, we delete them, we remove them from our thinking, we remove them from what we are doing going forward, because it is a bet that we have measured and seen that to some extent it doesn't meet the average goal for the solution, which is business, technical, and then user goals. So we have to delete the ones that don't work. Now, when it comes to deleting, we delete what is not required to prove the value, which is what I explained before. We need to reduce as much as possible what will not give us more value, what will not lead us to a better destination, to ensure that we can test properly, we can we can get something tangible that we can design on, test, and get good results at the end of the day. I need to move something up. I'll still have to bring it down. Don't worry. Anyways, that's what the whole deleting process is about. Now, after we have gotten the 3 solutions, we have to start asking ourselves another set of questions. What must be true to ensure that we can move with those solutions? There are 3 solutions there. There are 3 solutions. Do you think it is wise to start implementing 3 solutions at once, given the fact that your team might be on a time crunch? You might be trying or planning to build an MVP. You might be trying and planning to ensure that you can test properly on the solutions you are choosing. All these 3 solutions might not exactly be feasible, and there can be cases where we don't know what is true about them. This leads me to what we call, or what I, no, it's not Misha, what we call assumption. So I'm going to use this example here. Not outcome. Assumptions are built on top solutions. The solution here is that outcome-based onboarding, cloud access story, and a shorter walkthrough. Basically, during the onboarding process, we are going to share the cloud access success story and then do a short walkthrough so that users can see that another company has found success using this method. They can see the features and what is missing, and then if they have a shorter onboarding walkthrough, they get to the app and start using this. What is the assumption? Now, Rachel is the product manager for this entire discovery process that we did. One of the assumptions was that users adopt features better when they understand the problem first during onboarding. That's the assumption we have. And the assumption is basically saying, asking this question: will users understand the problem? Will users adopt our features? Will users understand what the platform can offer during onboarding and then adopt these features? So we are just assuming that users are going to know all these things. Assumption number 2, the cloud access is credible and relatable for enterprise customers, meaning the people we want to use for success stories. How sure are we that when people see this company, they are going to feel like, oh wow, these people are credible, these people are relatable? We don't know. That is the actual truth. We don't know that the company we want to showcase is going to make conversion possible. Another assumption: customers accept delayed value if they understand the timeline. What this means is that, okay, I'm going to give more context. The investigation note solution that we already had the feature within the platform, the best way to get value from it is when multiple teammates are built with it. So if there is a problem, if there is a security investigation that they need to investigate, if there is a security issue they need to investigate, and multiple teammates are adding notes so that when another teammate come, they can see what they have gathered for their investigation. The value for that particular feature is that over time, as people are adding investigation notes, it is going to translate to something positive for maybe the 5th person that looks through it. The first person will not get value from it because it is empty. But the 5th person coming to use that feature will get value from it because there is enough context to the security stuff that is trying to investigate. So now the assumption is that customers will accept this delayed value if they understand the timeline. The whole point of this is that when you have a solution, you should think about some of the assumptions, because what if you build upon this solution but the assumption that we're having have not been tested, and that assumption turned out to be wrong. So what if we improve the onboarding, but the onboarding process that has been improved is not something that is going to make people adopt the feature? What if? Does that mean the solution is wrong? Probably. Does that mean we did not solve the right problem? Or does that mean we don't have the right problem? No, we had the right problem, but we assumed that the solution we are thinking about is going to solve that problem. So we have to think about assumptions critically. And a framework that you can apply can just be, we believe that, then state the assumption you have. Or you can say, for a particular user group, the direction we want to go will produce a certain outcome because, then you write out why you think that is the case. So in terms of this pulse shield now, this is just a short extract from the assumption mapping. So as you can see, we have we have my own assumptions here. Onboarding is the best place to communicate investigation feature value. So all this is for the onboarding stuff. That is what this initiative is about, the onboarding aspects. And then there is David here, which says like stories and workflow are more memorable than feature demos. So these are just various assumptions that we have to think about. Yeah, so a balanced idea or direction can still hide weak assumptions. Why do I say so? We can think about a lot of solutions that fits the users, fits the business team, fits our technical team. You can think about various assumptions, but the direction can still hide a weak assumption. Regardless of how brilliant the solution might be, there could be hidden weaknesses in terms of what are we assuming that we have to find through. And then I think there's also something that just came to my mind now. The reason why you should have a team, if you notice, not here, here, if you notice, the assumptions that are coming from all these places are not just from myself, they are coming from two other people, which is three people in general. The benefit of having a lot of head in this kind of process is that it opens your team to think widely. As a product designer, there is a bias I'm going to come with when it comes to solution building. There are some biases that will come to my head when it comes to creating assumption. But if you have a team of people in different sector, it can bring about more possibilities, stronger assumptions, stronger solutions, stronger brainstorming power. My advice is that when you are working in a team and you have to brainstorm solutions, try as much as possible not to do it alone. If you can borrow 1 hour from your teammates and say, or even 15 minutes and say, are you free this period? Let us think about some solutions together, and then walk through the assumptions for those solutions and then figuring out what to actually work with. It can help and go a long way. When you get a balanced direction and there is weak assumption, you have to find a way to test those assumptions, because there are some assumptions that have good evidence. You can have good evidence that this assumption is correct, but it might not be business critical. That assumption may not serve the business well. Some assumptions can be weak and serve the business. Some assumptions can be weak and not serve the business. Some assumptions can be strong and have good evidence. So you need to categorize these things in different sectors. So this is essentially what I mean. You should prioritize what deserves evidence first. And I'll show you an example here. So I just extracted all these things from the main product discovery workshop, or the workflow we did for the entire problem. But some of the cross team some of the themes that emerged from the entire three initiative here. These are some of the assumptions we have. Timing. Can we introduce education at the moment users need it? Which is relating to bringing people to the knowledge of these features. Will users genuinely change investigation habits? Maybe if we do the onboarding properly, will they change their investigation habits? If we show them the features that they need to use to investigate properly, will they change their investigation habits? Will users trust the stories and recommendation enough to change? Like the cloud access example I gave. Will managers reinforce adoption beyond onboarding? There is the solution that we should create a 30 days onboarding journey where we can walk through the features we have slowly over a long period of time. This way, our customers are not overloaded with these are all the features. They can just take it one by one and then build upon it as time goes on. So these are different assumptions. So now we have to rank them using this method. Here is high evidence, here is low evidence, here is business irrelevant, here is business critical. Now, you put all these assumptions into these boxes. One of the assumptions is, are we solving the right problem? Yes, it is very strong. We have strong evidence that we are solving the right problem based on the initial research we did, and it is business critical because it is a very strong need. Timing, can we introduce education at the right moment users need it? Yes, there is a stronger evidence that we can introduce it because we know some of the places that users get confused early on, and we know the first place that people gain awareness and knowledge about features, i.e. onboarding. 2, maybe if they are doing investigation, they are trying to build upon it. If they are looking through all the different security issues that have come out, the alerts that have come out, we can introduce the new investigation features there. So there is a strong evidence that we can do this, and it is business critical because it is strongly in line with the goals we are trying to achieve. Then let's move to this side of the quadrant here. Will the SOC managers reinforce adoption beyond onboarding? Now, we don't have evidence that the managers in those teams are going to help their teammates onboard towards these new features. We don't know if they are going to help their teammates to adopt the features that are going to be there. So, what do we do? But it is business critical. Will users trust success stories and recommendations and willing to change? We don't have enough evidence for it. And it is not as business critical as these two. That's why it is lower here. So what does this quadrant mean? You might be wondering, what is the point of all these things? Anything that is here, let me start from this one. Anything that is business irrelevant and high evidence, we will ignore it. Anything that is business irrelevant and low evidence, we are going to completely discard it because there is no point trying to find evidence for something that is not business critical. It is irrelevant to the business, so there is no point trying to find evidence to support the assumption. Now, this top quadrant here, it is the most important one. You have solutions, you have assumptions to solutions here that lack evidence. It is business critical. This is the assumption you want to test to be sure that the solutions you are building is going to be worth it. You have some solutions here that is high evidence and business critical. These are the assumptions that you know that you are going to build on at the end of the day. Maybe not as the initial MVP, maybe not as the initial thing you are going to test, but you know that these are the things that are sure. These are the things that you can take moving forward. So the reason for this quadrant here is that we are going to test that SOC managers are going to reinforce adoption. We are going to test that users are going to genuinely change their investigation habits. So these are the two things we are going to test because they are most in line to business critical and low evidence. This is slightly leaning towards business irrelevance. So we're going to leave it out. That's the entire point of this quadrant, and that's how it works. So we test the top two or the top assumptions that are within the top right quadrant, meaning there is low evidence and it is business critical. So will analysts use contextual guidance during an investigation, during an active investigation? We will test for that. And will managers reinforce the behavior so that it becomes a habit? We are going to test for that. And I know the question might be, how do we start testing these assumptions? Because we are not ready to build yet. We are ready to learn more about the assumptions that we are having. And this is where we start going towards experiments. Experiments are essentially small scale, what would I call it now? It's not really a feature. It is a small scale test that you can use to be sure that what you are building is going to convert. And I'm going to give you an example. While I was working in Miller Lite, we needed to do an experiment to test that if we introduce a button that sends users to mailer send and mailer check, it is going to improve the amount of users that use all our platforms at the same time. Because the biggest benefit was that you can use MailerLite, MailerSend, and MailerCheck. That's where you get the best benefits. So how can we ensure that we can cross-sell this platform across each other? There were many users that were using MailerLite, but were not using MailerSend. They were not using MailerCheck. How do we sell to these people that we have MailerSend, we have MailerCheck, when they're only using MailerLite? So this led to a lot of, so all this final solution came from reframing the problem, brainstorming on solution, and then we decided that one of the assumptions was that if we put the buttons on the profile drop down, users will be able to click on it, see the different tools available, and then be curious enough to click through them, or be curious enough to navigate to other platforms faster and get benefits from it. We were not sure that this is going to bring benefits to users. We had an assumption, and it was business critical because it was part of the business goal to cross-sell the platforms and to ensure that people switch across these platforms very fast. We ran the experiment. Now, this experiment was just a simple drop-down button, show 3 menu. Go to MailerCheck, go to MailerLite, go to MailerSend. That is what those 3 buttons were. And after running the experiment for like 2 to 3, I think close to a week, we got results back. We measured the metric. We saw that the rate at which people were switching across platforms became faster, and multiple people were using the switching to discover these new products. Then we also did an A/B test to do tests for position. If you put it by the left or by the right, which one will convert faster? So this is what experiments can do. It will ensure that you can test very fast that your ideas and your solutions are worth it. If you see that from the experiment you have a positive result, then congrats, you can start building upon that experiment and introduce the other solutions that you had high evidence for on your business critical. This way, you are sure that you are not just providing a solution to a problem, but you are providing a solution that you have tested to be sure that it solved the problem. Then you scale and make it more wholesome. You scale and make it more elaborate. So this is essentially the reason and the benefits for talking about. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. So just yes, yes, ask.
Yeah, so hi Rotimi. Yeah, thank you very much for this great session. Yeah, so my question is, I think you made mention of some ideas, some solutions that don't work, that you actually delete them. So I was now thinking, what if later in the future those ideas work? What's the point of deleting them? Why don't you just kind of like sandbox them for later, just in case, because we can not really tell the future like that. So I don't know why don't we actually go down that route? Why delete the solution that doesn't work?
That's a very brilliant question. Thank you for asking this question. The reason why you delete a lot of solutions is because if we go back to, let me see this place now. If we go back to this place, yeah. If we go back to this framework, for example, now we have multiple solutions. Now we are ranking these solutions in three categories. Does it meet the business goal? Does it meet the user goal? And is it technically feasible to solve? There might be good sounding solutions, but when you weigh it in terms of the value that that solution have, you need to pick the solutions that are going to meet the business goal, the user goals, and are technically feasible. You delete this idea so that you are not, you don't lose focus and focus on those wrong things. The reason why you don't keep them and store the solutions is because you have already checked and tested that they don't meet, maybe they don't meet the user goals, maybe they meet the business goal and it's technically feasible, but it doesn't meet the user goal. Now, if at the end of the day your final solution solves the problem which you started from the phase one, you have found the problem, you have narrowed everything down, you saw a solution, you got some assumptions, you tested it, it worked, and then you solved that problem. To a very good extent, the rest of the solutions that you have thought about will be redundant because that problem has already been solved. So, can these ideas be reused for something else? Probably, but it will not be reused in the same way because you are going to maybe have another different problem that you are trying to solve, and this solution will not fit into that particular problem. So that is the reason why you delete. And by deleting, I don't mean deleting from the sticky notes. I mean throwing the idea away. So you can still have it in your sticky notes to reference later on. But you are essentially just throwing the idea away so you can focus on what matters. And when it comes to deleting also, you don't only, there are some times where you delete processes, there are some times where you delete steps, sometimes you delete some features, maybe because those features are going to be distracting when it comes to the solution that you are trying to build. So deleting is not supposed to be something that you should be scared about. Sometimes deleting is the right move to make because you might be overwhelming your users with features that they don't need. Let me give you, I don't know if I can find a good example with this. Okay, let me use OPay, for example. OPay have a lot of features. If you check the metrics now, you might find that there are some features that have 1% usage and provides maybe only 1% of the revenue for OPay. Will it be worth it to delete that feature so that the interface is more cleaner and it's focused on the actual things that bring value to the users? So this is a rhetorical question. So there are some times when deleting matters, where deleting is going to be important. I don't know if I was able to answer your question.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. I doubt there's any question. If there is, you can leave me a DM or email, but I will just say let us call it a day. Thank you so much for listening. I am Grateful for you guys joining and spending this hour with me talking about discovery and why finding the right solutions matter as much as finding the right problem. So if there is a next phase for this stuff, I'm going to let you guys know. One of the things I would like to do is to run workshops to test these things live. So hopefully when we talk about this, we are going to have many people joining in. Thank you for joining.